Just me? That's not me.
There you go.
Yeah, I
Well,
am.
maybe. I don't know.
That's still not me.
That's you up there.
Yeah, he's fishing off the dock.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's it.
Are we on?
There I am.
Hey, we're on. Hey.
We're on.
Hey, everybody. It's Tony here from Sundance. We're on Facebook Live. We've got a live audience as well tonight.
Got a bunch
And,
of
Most
people.
of them.
We're here with Sam Heaton, of course,
you
as
doing?
usual, and we're going to talk about bottom fishing, and specifically snapper, I think, tonight, since we're just gone through our red snapper 3-day season, which hopefully most of you guys were able to get out there. Sam, did you get out for snapper?
Yeah, I was out a couple of days, and it was good, but you know it was pretty crowded. The snapper were offshore a little bit further than they usually are. We were out around the 100 feet out off of Fort Pierce around Nakalula Bank. There's an area in there you can't fish. We didn't fish that, but there's some areas there that have some live reef, and you could and we fished there, and then we came back in, fished Bethel Shoals some, and Bethel Shoals was good. Mostly mangoes in there though.
Yeah.
Or I mean not mangoes. I'm sorry, muttons. Mostly muttons.
I like
And-
mutton snapper.
Oh, I do too. I love to eat snapper and muttons.
So, what were you, like 50, 100 feet? What depth were you at?
Well, about 115 feet. Did any of y'all go snapper fishing over the weekend? No. You know, it's a shame we don't have but 3 days a year when you can catch a genuine red snapper. I don't know. I'm not too, you know, and we'll probably get some calls on this, but anyway, I might as well say my piece. Might be my last time. But, you know, every time we do a creel study, you know, when you get to Sanskrit or you get to Sailboat Club down here, and there's one of those biologists there, and he's got his notebook, and he's writing down, you know, what you call it and what you think you call it and what you turn loose and all that. And I told him, I said, and this guy was really nice. He was the nicest one I've ever talked to, and he was a local boy from Fort Pierce. And I said, you know, it seems like to me, every time y'all do one of these studies, you lower the recreational limit and raise the commercial limit. I said, now, I don't really understand how all that works. I mean, I don't know what the commercial limit is on red snapper, but it's more than one. I can guarantee you that. And, you know, and that's what it is for recreational fishermen. It's one.
I got some numbers for you. if you're
Okay,
interested.
get
So I
whoop
looked
'em
it
out.
up. They've got the total quota federal was 7,399,000 pounds.
For
And
commercial or
That was
recreational?
the total quota that they
Oh, total.
expected, and that was I think that was,
75 pounds gutted weight per boat.
and they actually allocate 7% of that to the private angler, and then 42% of that goes to the for-hire guides and some guys like yourself, and then the remaining 51% is for commercial.
Really?
So
Well-
that's that was this past year. That was for, I believe, 2021.
But it doesn't do me any good to have, what'd you say, 42?
7%.
No,
Well,
42 for a captain, because I got 3 days to fish, and everybody can catch one fish.
yeah, I don't understand that part of it either.
Yeah, I don't
Because
understand
it's just 3 days of fishing on the Atlantic federal waters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, right?
Yeah,
Except
yeah.
unless you're a commercial fisherman.
Yeah, unless you have a
And even the
commercial.
commercial guys only have that 3 day or no?
No,
They've got a bigger season. They've got a more.
but here's the deal on that. The commercial guys, the license goes with the boat. Okay, and that when you buy that boat, you have to buy that license. I mean, they're selling 32-foot Makos that should have been beached years ago for $150,000 because it has a commercial license. You know, I don't know. I mean, back when we had banned the nets. Y'all remember when we banned all the nets?
And licenses do the same thing. Up New England,
we had the same problem up there. The license goes with the boat. I don't care if it's a canoe. If it's got the license is what, you buying the license.
You buy the
You're
license.
not buying the boat, you're buying the license.
I remember when we had banned the nets. I got into it with two old boys at Flamingo, and I think that they'd have just about beat me to death if I hadn't crawled under my truck. But we had a bad deal there about the ban the nets. But we finally got it passed. But I don't know how good it did. I don't know how many nets are still out there. Nobody else does either. But anyway, I love red snapper fishing. You know, they're pretty hardy fish. They bite pretty good. Now there's a new regulation, and I meant to pick one up today because I left mine in my boat. It's that release deal where you have the weight, and it's a big safety pin looking thing, and you put the safety pin through the fish's lip, and with a like a 20-ounce weight or 24-ounce weight.
It's called a descending device.
And you send it down to the bottom, and then you pick it up, and that safety pin, you know, it's kind of like them scissors right there. You put the weights here, and you put this through the fish, his lip, and when you send him down, that pins him up here against the ring, and then when you pick it up, it turns him loose. You know, everybody, you know, you had to have a venting tube for a long time, and the venting tube, a lot of people, you know, kill more fish with that thing than they did.
They still want to see either one of those though. You know, they still want you to have one or the other.
Oh yeah. You got to have, and I've got both of them. But
you also, I believe, and I think this might just be, I don't know if it's just for golf, but State Reef Fish Angler, there's a license, and it's an annual permit, a state reef permit, a reef fishing permit.
oh really?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah,
Free,
you
But
got
you gotta
kind of like a creel.
You might
It's
have to take a test too.
it's an
I
annual.
think I took a test.
It's an annual thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I had never gotten one of those.
Uh-oh. You sure you want to admit that?
You might not need it over
You
65.
might, as a
actually.
commercial license holder, you're a guide license holder, so
Yeah, I've got a guide license. So, what
Also,
else?
the,
What
uh,
else kind of information
so
you got?
non-stainless hooks. That's a requirement now. If you're north of 28 degrees, which is Melbourne, they want you to use non-offset circle hooks. Personally, I use circle hooks pretty much for everything. You know, unless I'm yellowtail snapper fishing down in the Keys, you know, I'll use the small J hooks, which you're allowed to do as long as they're not stainless hooks, which I don't believe most people don't use stainless hooks anymore. But yeah, that's a requirement, non-stainless, and then you might as well go ahead and do a non-offset circle hook.
Why do you like a J hook for yellowtail?
Because when I'm yellowtailing, if you're chumming, you know, you're free lining that piece of bait that you're going out with your chum slick, right? And it's hard to know when that fish is there. There's a lot of times they get gut hooked. They do get gut hooked, you know, and that little hook, it's a small hook.
Yeah.
You know, the fish can still survive with that hook, you know, as long as you didn't tear his guts out when you reeled him in. But if he's too short, you know, you can snip that line in there and let that fish go, and chances are he will survive. Obviously, if he's caught in his gills, you try to get it out. But for the most part, it's easier because they swallow it anyways, right? So with that technique, you're using a smaller hook. So at that point, they're going to swallow it, even if it's a circle hook, right? Because you're not using big, you know, most of these, when you're fishing red snapper, mutton snapper fishing, you're using a bigger hook most of the time. And in deeper water, you want them bigger fish, right?
Yeah.
Like what you got on there, it was like a 5.0, what is that, a 5?
No, that is actually a 7/0.
That's a 7.
True turn circle hook, non-offset.
Right. Does everybody know what that means? When you say non-offset? It's the hook is in line with the you know, the shank. So it's a lot of, you look some hooks.
They've outlawed in most of your tournaments. They've outlawed the offset circle hooks because, I mean, I like them, but they do tend to gut hook the fish. So you got to be real careful. And I don't use a lot of J hooks anymore. I like a J hook, but I don't know. I think the survival rate on the circle hook's a lot better. I mean, I really do. As long as you keep them sharp. A lot of people don't sharpen those circle hooks. That's a bad mistake. Because it will really affect your hook set ratio if you don't sharpen that hook.
I tend to not use them that often. I mean, I like VMC.
Mm-hmm. BMC's
Pretty
a
damn
great
sharp
hook.
hook, and usually I'm not using the hook, one outing. You know what I mean? If I go out and catch some fish for tarpon or something,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to reuse that hook most likely.
Yeah, most likely I'm gonna cut it off and put it in the garbage because it that
The tips
So-
the tips turn. It's harder to sharpen them. It's not like a J hook.
sure, and the salt water will dull that hook. I don't care if you're not doing nothing but ride around with it in the hook keeper. That salt water will corrode that hook point, and that really hurts you. There's a couple of rigs. This is called what's this called, Tony?
That's a knocker.
Knocker rig. This is my least favorite. But it's easier to fish because when you let it down, it doesn't tangle your bait. Okay? But it's my least favorite to hook. My favorite rig to use is this rig right here. Of course, I've got it. It's gonna fall over. It's okay. It won't hurt it. It's okay. Don't get hooked. I'll have to reel you in. They're Crowder rods. You can't hurt them.
That's more of a fish finder rig you got here.
Yeah, this is a fish finder rig here. But you see, I've got the weights way up above. Now, I do like a longer leader. I want an 8 or 10 foot leader, even though I'm fishing it. And I'll start off with a 6 ounce ball weight like that. And then if I can't get on bottom and stay on bottom, I'll use go up to 8 or 10, whenever I have to, to stay. And what you do when this rig gets on bottom, you got to be real careful and let it down slow, because that where the bait won't circle your main line. Y'all ever had that happen with you? You got to let it down slow. And the thing to do is when you let it out, keep your bait down current from your line. You know what I'm saying?
Start out that way.
Down current. That way the current will pull that bait away from that main line. And when I get that on the bottom, if I feel that thing start bumping the bottom, I'm dragging it. If I'm dragging it, I'll just keep that line out to where I don't feel it anymore. Because I don't want it to be moving around down here.
That's why it's difficult to fish in a current. In strong currents, it's hard because that bait's not going to sometimes not even make it to the bottom unless
Exactly.
you're using a super heavy weight,
And then you lose your sensitivity.
yeah.
I mean, that's the way I was taught to do it, and that's the way I do it. As far as knots go, I use a tuna knot. This is a snail knot on this because I have a octopus Gamakatsu hook with an offset eye, and I snailed that on there. But if I'm using a straight shank hook, I will use a tuna hook. That's a clinch hook where you wrap it around the line, go up the line, and then you come back down to the eye of the hook and put it through the eye of the bait. Put it through the eye of the leader. I don't know the right name for it, but that's the tuna hook's all I've ever called it. That's what we used that's what we do use over in the Bahamas to catch those yellowfin. And if you hold on to one of them, you're doing good. They pull like crazy. Any questions so far? I know I can't be that good of an explainer.
So, let's talk a little bit about when you pull a fish up from 100 feet or 150 feet, or, a lot of times that fish is bladder's coming out of his mouth. If you want to let it go, you're going to let it go with this descender, or you're going to use the,
With the
the
descender?
venting tool. So,
Or a venting tool.
when you do a venting tool, it's behind the
Behind the pectoral fin. Neck pectoral fin. Behind that pectoral fin. And you can hear it. You can hear it come out. But I may be telling y'all completely wrong, but if I come up, especially with a big grouper or a nice grouper, and his air bladder's in his mouth, I just puncture the air bladder.
now that fish you'll let it go back down.
Yeah, it'll. He can swim back down with it.
Do you know what?
Ain't nothing makes me any
What's
sicker.
sticking out of his mouth?
Huh?
The part that's sticking out of his
Yeah.
mouth? That's what you puncture?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what it's
It-
called?
Air bladder?
No. Do you know what it's called when it comes up and it's loaded like that? You know what they call it?
Floater. What?
Barotrauma.
Yeah.
You-
Barrel
true.
trauma.
Baro, like barometric, barotrauma.
I had a guy put a double barrel shotgun on me one night, and that was barrel trauma for damn sure. barrel trauma.
Barotrauma.
I didn't know that. Did y'all know that?
That's why I'm here, man. It's
Good
teach you
boat
something.
Huh?
Be a good boat name.
Barrel trauma.
You know the scientific name for the red snapper?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's him.
Well, you wouldn't know it till you looked it up. What is it?
It's Lutjanus campichanus. Can't even say it right.
Sounds like you're speaking Italian. Look, Janice
Close. It's
Caposano.
got to be Latin. It's in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'll take
So-
your word for it.
What about bait?
Here again,
Favorite bait, live cut? What do you think?
my first is a live pilcher. My second is a froze cigar minnow. My third, squid. My fourth, whatever I can get on the dang hook. I like squid, but squid just so messy and stinky and nasty. But, they like squid, but I really don't like it that much, So, but I'll take a live bait anytime. Live pilcher. Two things about a pilcher. If you want to pull him, hook him through the nose. If you want to put him out there and him swim down, now you can't pull him once he swims down. You hook him in the back, right behind the dorsal fin, right through the back, and he'll swim down. But if you go to pulling him, you're drowned him.
I like to take live bait, big, nice green ear filter or threadfin herring, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll cut his tail and butterfly him and
Mm.
send him down.
Mm-hmm.
That works pretty good.
Mm.
Because then if you hook him through the nose or through the head, then you're not worrying about him fouling you up, swimming around. Because when they down there live, they kind of
Oh yeah,
swim
well,
around.
yeah.
I've used in the Keys. We do a lot of pinfish for them, and we do mutton. The mutton love the pinfish. But my favorite cut bait's ballyhoo.
Yeah.
I think a fresh
Chunk
you
it
get-
or do you?
If you got a fresh ballyhoo, cut it. You can
Chunk
you
it.
can throw a whole one down there, but but nice sized chunks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'll use a big 2 ounce troll right jig head and add weight, and that way I don't have to have so much weight on one point. I can have a weight with the weighted jig head
Mm-hmm.
and get it down there. It depends. There's all different ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. But with a big jig head like that, don't it just lay on the bottom though?
It depends on how much current it is, right?
You said you use the weight.
I'll use if I need it, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm using
then the
braid,
jig head,
if I'm
yeah.
using braid,
I've never
I can
tried
get
that.
it down there. A lot of times,
I ain't gonna say it will work.
well, deeper water, a lot of times these fish are not at the bottom; they're suspended.
Oh yeah, that's one thing about this rig right here. When I let it down, and I'm right on top of the wreck, I will reel it up a little bit over the top of that wreck and give that bait a chance to swim up above those gangfish.
A lot of times those fish they're not on the wreck. They're either
Exactly.
up current or down current from the wreck. Like muttons, they like sand,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll be suspended.
They love to get
20,
down
30
current.
feet off the bottom. You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
You ever notice when you say, I'm gonna give it 5 more minutes and we're gonna pull back around? That's when you get the bite because you're down current of that wreck. And I gotta fish some kind of structure. I can't fish that flat sand. I don't know. I don't have any confidence in it. I want to be close to that wreck.
Well, they do too, but they just don't want to be on it because the truthy critter, you know, the barracuda and kingfish and all those guys are right on that wreck, you know.
A couple of weeks ago, I was fishing. I started off at this sand pile, and the barracudas they were out there in force, buddy. I mean, they would come up, you couldn't even let one down without them grabbing you. Now I went on up to the north, up to the pipe barge, and it was the same deal up there, except they were smaller barracuda. I started to keep one to eat it, but I was afraid to. But them hangings, they eat them. But,
We'll stay away from the big ones.
yeah, well, saprolegnia. Yeah. Is that the right name?
Cigatera.
Cigatera.
What'd you say?
Saprolegnia. That's a
That's a baby tree, isn't it?
No, that's a disease that freshwater fish get. Cigatera, yeah. Anyway, it'll make you sick.
For life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
tell you what, I
required.
do like, and it's becoming a real popular thing now. Any of you fish the butterfly jigs? You know, the long ones? Let them down?
You use a jigging rod for that?
Yes. Yeah. And you gotta, you can't, you do that 8 hours.
Too much work.
No.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. You know, a lot of, that's when you know the fish are there, I think,
Mhm.
because it is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't know if the fish are there or not, you're kind of the better off with a bait, something they can kind of come to. But the jigs, if they're there, a lot of times you get those amberjack, you'll get
I
a
love
lot of different
amberjack.
species on those.
People cuss them, call them reef donkeys and everything else. I like them amberjacks.
They're on the menu in the Panhandle of Florida. They're not down here.
They're what?
They're on the menu at the restaurants.
Yeah. Well, we have, they get down here in warmer water, they get a lot of worms. People don't like that.
You
I
guys
try
set
to-
up bait stations?
Sir, I try to sterilize them with that Crown Royal, and I ain't had no problem. What?
Do you guys set up bait stations to go down? You put chum and stuff and send it down to start your spot?
Do we chum for snapper in deeper water?
Yeah.
You can. I typically don't. You, Sam?
No, I don't.
Usually only
I'll,
chum. I'm chumming in maybe 80 to 100 feet of water. After that, I don't typically would chum.
I'd rather throw chunk bait, chunk of dead baits and the cigar minnows and stuff like that. I'd rather chunk them up and throw them out behind the boat. They'll gradually slide down. And don't, I see these people taking baseball bats and putting that chum in there and throwing it out there 30 or 40 feet. Not good. Throw your chum right over the side of the boat. That's where you want the fish, because it's gonna go down current from you. You got to keep it up there close to you, where 2 reasons: where you can get to the fish and where you can see the fish.
The other reason is you're not going to anchor.
Right.
When you're fishing, for deeper water snapper fishing,
Mhm.
you're not going to typically anchor. You can, and and if you do, you can chum, and that'll bring in deeper water. It'll bring more than just snapper around. You get a lot of other fish,
Yeah.
sharks. That's the other problem with that.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Anybody ever had any problem anchoring your boat in 100 feet to 150 feet of water? What a pain in the rear end that is. There's no easy way to do it. Cause the tide, your boat's swinging. If you're anchored in 100 feet of water, you got to put out 300 feet of line. You got to scope it. Cause that'll,
Not with them in coated trolling motor.
no, not with, and these
That's why these guys are putting them on there. That's why they make what do they have?
87
87 inch now? Yeah,
112
crazy.
pounds.
Yeah, 87.
For them big
That's the
center
best thing that
consoles.
ever happened, man. That's the best thing
You
that
know, it's
ever
not a
happened.
bad thing because, you know, a lot of times people lose their anchors. They get down there and it's, you know, you end up leaving an anchor and chain down there. If you've ever dove on some of these wrecks and reefs, you see all kinds of junk
Yeah.
down there. The more junk you can keep off the reef, the better, right?
Yeah.
I cut my rope, I was like, I'm gonna get sick, I'm leaving, couldn't get it up.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not getting sick of my own boat,
Yeah.
cut the line.
Yeah, well, that or you know, some guys, you know, don't ever try to get your anchor up by just tying to the stern or anything like that. That's people have done it and it's, you know,
Pull the
lost
stern of
lives
your
lost.
boat under.
It's
Or valve
dangerous.
pulpit, they rip the valve pulpits off.
Yeah, or you can rip off the, you know,
Use a float.
anchor ball is the best way to get it up. Yeah.
So Sam, for like new people, and I understand why, explain why you don't normally, forget even the difficulties, but when you anchor, instead of drifting across the wreck, the scope and line of your baits goes out when you anchor versus drifting with it, keeping it down, correct?
Explain that to me one more time.
So, yeah, what he's saying is if you're anchoring, you're gonna the
If you're
current.
anchoring,
And you're letting your baits out, it's going with the current away,
sure.
versus when you drift with your line, dropping it down, it stays down versus going out and to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it pulls it up to the top of the water column versus going down when you're drifting, you're dragging it.
Yeah.
It's easier to keep the bait closer to the bottom when you're drifting.
When you're drifting.
Correct.
Because that's the reason. Because here's the deal: if you're anchored and you put your bait down there, more or less the reason you're anchored is because the tide's so bad you can't control it. And anything over a 4-knot tide, I can't fish it.
Yeah.
4 knots. That's right. I
Yeah,
can't do it.
That's fact.
Yes, sir.
When the tide is slow enough, do you prefer drifting as opposed to anchoring?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good, me too.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious.
I sure do. Yes, sir. But
I'm still just learning.
when I get on my spot and I look at my course, you know, my navigational course, I want that thing to look like a ball of yarn. In other words, I'm not gonna pull way up above it, way back down here, way up above it, way back down here. I'm gonna do my job and stay on top of that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because, like I say, and a lot of people,
Pump some water, get right back on it again, kind of like nonstop.
I see a lot of
Some
people.
guys will keep in gear and try to stay on it.
Yeah.
Right? Some guys will stay in gear or bump in and out of gear to stay as close to that spot that they want to be at.
And they've got these new, what do you call them, pinpoint, on the big motors,
Oh, like set point,
set point,
you know, Hellmaster, Yamaha.
Hellmaster
and stuff.
set. The only thing wrong with that is they rev up so high. You know, like, whoa, you know,
Depends on
put
the
it,
boat, but yeah,
yeah.
they're better now. It also depends on the speed and the current.
Yeah,
How far.
exactly. I don't like that.
Well, that's
They
why
say,
trolling
well, it
motors
don't
are-
hurt them fish down there 100 feet. Well, them fish down there 100 feet know exactly what's going on the top. I guarantee you they do.
A lot of mutton snapper on the drift, just on a flat line.
Do what?
A lot of mutton snapper caught on flat lines.
Yeah.
Over a reef, a lot of them.
Yeah, this time of year is, you know, that was the other thing. This time of year with the full moons in July and August, you get the mangrove are, you know, a pretty good bite. Typically, the muttons were a little earlier. I think, you know, in the late spring, but you get the mangrove spawn now is a lot of fun, and they're really good eating fish. I do enjoy mangroves.
Huge, yeah, man. I'll eat them every day.
You know, we get them up. You know, they get some big ones up here off Fort Pierce, and you don't have to go super deep. You know, if you guys, anybody likes to fish at night, you know, if you get out there, you know, I like to go on the rising moon as the moon's coming up. You know, it doesn't have to be full moon, but I do like that time of day when that moon's just hitting the
Exactly.
horizon. And it's a lot of fun. If you go, you can go right out here at St. Lucie Inlet and fish where he was saying, like even the rock piles and the bite barge and some of that area there. There's a lot of fish there. They'll be there, and you don't have to go real deep. And you can anchor and you can chump, you know. You can drift it if you want, but you know, you can go out at a time like now, get your live bait, and then be out there for a few hours as the sun, you know, and you'll get fish. I mean, we even caught them at Peck's Lake. It's 30 feet deep there.
Sure.
You don't
Bethel
have-
Shoals is a great place to try. And Bethel Shoals is a big area. And what you got to do, you just got to get on top of the drop, get up here on top, and ease down that drop till you find a pile of rubble. You know, and then, you know, there's plenty of places on your navigational charts that are marked, but the better places. The only thing wrong with Bethel Shoals is the divers. Anything less than 80 feet of water, you got to compete with the divers. And they're shooting fish all the time. You know. I mean, I don't believe it's, as long as he's fishing legal, I think everybody has the opportunity to fish. But you just got to outsmart them. You get out there at 100 feet, 115, 120 feet, you know, if they're not diving with nitric oxide, they're not diving with gas, then they got to come back up in a matter of minutes. So it's you got to stay away from those divers. And a lot of them don't really show you a lot of courtesy. Some of them do, some of them don't. Just like fishermen. Another question, somebody. Surely I ain't educated everyone. And Tony now, he's pretty much in that walking encyclopedia.
Well, thank you, Sam.
You're a smart guy.
You prefer braid on all your down runs?
Mainline.
It's easier.
Yeah.
You know,
Scope stuff?
it's just easier. It doesn't have as much drag, you know, as you're dropping that bait down. It gets down there quicker. You know, it's more sensitive, so you can feel a bite. A lot of
That's
times
what
these
I like
snapper,
about
they
it.
don't. You know, you can. It could be a 15-pounder, and he's just tipping it. You know, he's not even.
Yes, sir.
What kind of braid do you usually run in here?
That's 40 on that one and 60 on this one.
That's a lot. 60's about the most I would use. 40's 30 or 40.
Yeah, that's 40, 60.
And you can put more braid on versus mono, so you have more line.
Yeah, exactly. But now, I know a lot of, pelagic species, a lot of people will put a top shot on there, you know, 100 yards of mono.
Yeah, if you like what I do a lot of times, if I'm gonna have one or two rods. If I have live bait, for instance, I might just have a flat line out, and that rod will be in the rod holder, you know, and with a circle hook, and it's probably on a rod that has mono, or at least a pretty large top shot, like Sam says. You want that stretch when that fish hits it. So, you know, if it's in the rod, you know, Ronnie rod holder's gonna hook it, you know, with a circle hook. It's not gonna be you. You're just kind of setting it out there while you're busy dropping your baits down. That's a good way to cover a good part of the column. You got the live bait up on top, and you're fishing down on the bottom. You know, I like doing that. A lot of times, you know, all of a sudden everything will happen. You know, it's kind of crazy, but it's
Can I
fun.
share a lesson about rod need a rod holder?
Sure.
Be careful about locking your drags down in a rod holder, because rods will break. I broke a brand new Crowder. I had my drag locked down and heard a pop, and I looked up and my rod was airborne.
You're not
So this
supposed
is
to
a
have.
Did you think about jumping
You're
in
not supposed
after?
to have the
Just
drag
for a
locked
second.
down. You
Well, no, but I will tell you, you're not gonna believe this story. God's honest truth, strike me dead. These things happen to me all the time. 3 hours later, and 4 houses away, I drifted in and almost hit a dock because my trolling motor shut down. And I have pictures of it. My trolling motor got the line, wrapped up the rod, sucked it in, shut my trolling motor off. And I'm freaking out. I'm going, why is it not working? Started the gas engine, pulled away, retracted the Altera, and up comes line and comes the rod. And I got the rod and reel back. No fish. I have done fish that way too.
Lucky dog.
But yeah, the lucky part was it was an original Shimano bait runner that I'm in love with, not the new ones. So I got it back, had Snook clean it up, whatever. In Crowder, and I told him this story, and it wasn't his fault. He gave me a new rod, wouldn't even pay
Sure.
me. half
Rob.
price for it.
Rob's the best. This reel right here is a new Shimano reel, and it's a Speedmaster, and it's a double speed reel. I really like them so far. I got
Well,
3 of them.
Let's talk about that. I mean, that's a good for bottom when you're bottom fishing in deeper water. It's nice to have the ability, you know, that gear ratio to get that fish up if you got them, or if you got to reel up quick, you're getting more line on
You
that
know,
ride.
the lower the gear ratio, the more power you got. If it's 6-to-1, you don't have as much power as you do if it's 3-to-1. But I really like these new reels. Of course, they're gonna have to go to beat those accurates, but I like these reels. I like Shimano. I wish it was made in the United States. We won't talk about that. My rods are made in China.
Not the Crowders.
No, Crowders are made right
Right
here
here in Stuart, Florida.
by a great little guy. Yeah. What about, let's talk about hook size for a minute. You know, Tony mentioned, said that's a 7-0. One thing I do, if I'm gonna fish squid, I increase my hook size. One size. Like if I'm fishing live bait with a 5-0, and I'm gonna have a squid rod, put squid out, I'll bump it up to a 6 or 7.
Why is that?
Because of the bulk of the squid. I hook my squid, you know, the squid's like this, his head's up here, his tail's back here. I hook him through the eyes, out the bottom, and then back into the, what would you call
Throw
it?
a whole
The
squid
body.
on? Throw a whole squid?
That's
wow.
right. That's
His
right.
eyes back to where now?
Huh?
Where do you go back through with the hook to?
Well, I don't know what to call it with that.
Where the
The
sun don't
carapace?
shine.
The what?
The carapace?
Carapace.
We'll call it
I wanted to call it something else.
Say we got, hey to Colby. Say hey to Colby out there.
How's Kobe?
Thanks for watching, Colby.
He's in Texas?
He's
Where
in
is he?
Texas.
What you doing out there?
Yeah, he has to go to a funeral, unfortunately. But,
I'm sorry.
We'll look forward to seeing you when you get back, Colby. We're gonna fish next week.
Come on back and get your stuff. We got a new boy hired. I'm just kidding. Oh, me. But I tell you what, if you got any kind of boat at all, you put one of those new Minn Kota 101 87-inch shafts on there. Man, it makes it so much
Where
easier.
are you putting all them batteries? Those 3 more batteries, right?
Well, for a 101, they have 3 more
You
batteries.
can rig it with.
300 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the boat. It depends on how you want to set it up. You know, some boats will rig them with, you can have, you know, 2 batteries for your motor. Let's say it's a single engine boat. You've got 2 batteries most likely anyways. You can add 2 and then wire it so that 3 of them, 36 volts, and then you're charging all 4 on a main charger.
You
That's
can
how
do
Ranger does it.
one lithium.
I don't care how Ranger does it.
They gotta be in the
And when that thing goes, boom, 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 and you're on Fish Button Hill, that's a bad feeling, man.
Yeah, well, that's because you're
3 batteries for your trolling motor, 2 batteries for your big motor.
Isn't that a big shaft for like a 24-foot boat?
Sir?
87?
well, you can go with the 72. The 60 was what used to be standard.
Yeah.
72 on most boats probably up to 26 feet, and then after that,
Well-
you know, if it's an offshore boat, if it's an offshore style boat that's got a high bow, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna need that 84.
Let me tell you a little story about that. I was with Minn Kota for 20 years, and I was the fisherman in the bunch. I mean, I had practical application for the trolling motors, battery chargers, depth finders. I mean, they had a great group of engineers. We were sitting in there one day, and I said, we need longer shafts on our saltwater motors for these higher bow boats. We got to have them. Well, how long you saying? I said, well, I think they ought to be at least 72 inches. And this one engineer said, well, we would really have to increase the wall thickness of the shaft of the trolling motor. I said, why would you have to do that? He said, well, you know, the shaft of the trolling motor would come back up under the boat. I said, man, I don't know where you get your degree, but you need to sue them people. I said, if that thing's pulling forward, it's pulling forward. It ain't pulling up under the boat. And he stood there for 15 minutes, and he turned about the color of that fellow's shirt, that green. I mean, you know, it's pulling forward. Like if this was a boat, and this is a trolling motor shaft, and you engage it and it pulls forward, it's going to pull out like that.
Correct.
It's not going to pull out like this. What's it?
Unless you're in the anchor feature and it needs to spin around,
And then
then it's going to push under the boat.
What's the scientific theory for that? You know,
Thrust first,
thrust versus mass.
mass, something like that.
I could tear that up, but I'm not going to. Thanks, Dave.
Oh, well, on that note, so what else you got for us on the snapper? We're gonna go fishing next week. We're gonna try to get some fresh video and catch some snapper before the summer's over.
Tony, do you guys do the installs on those Makos here or no?
Sundance does installs. We actually, I believe, have a couple of trolling motors in stock. If anybody is interested, come see us, talk to our parts person, and you know, we can take care of you. They are hard to come by. Trolling motors a lot of them are back ordered. We were fortunate to order some a few months ago and got them in. So yeah, I think we have a couple
Yes,
more
sir.
left.
You're part of, Blue Water Yachts, aren't you part of Blue Water Yachts?
Blue Water.
Over there off of,
Oh, they're
No,
yeah.
they
You're
don't.
talking
You don't
about
sell blue water.
no. You're talking about the
Marina.
marina over there.
yeah.
They're part of our One
Yeah.
Water
Yeah,
group.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
I-
Water.
Ocean Blue you're talking about.
I got a Dakota on order, so that's why I was just asking.
Ocean Blue. Well, they're a different company, but they're part of the same group. They're under the
Okay,
same
I just-
umbrella.
Well, just maybe.
We don't
When they say
share.
it
We
will
don't
be
share
in-
inventories if that's what you're asking.
Oh, well, that answers my question about my Dakota, okay.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't come through
I'm
us.
just trying to get my motor.
Sooner.
Well, you could always, you know,
I can
cancel
try.
and get if we have what you need. I don't know if
Yeah,
we
I
have
know,
what you need.
No biggie, I got a boat from her, so I just,
What'd you buy? Pursuit?
no, I bought a Tidewater,
Tidewater?
I bought a 24. Max.
A used boat?
Huh?
Was it used?
Yeah, 2019.
Baymax is a nice boat. That 24. It's not a bad boat.
Yes, I'm very happy with that boat,
I like that one better than their
Carolina.
I don't like that other one.
Any more questions? Jeremy, what about you? Is your head full of knowledge?
Jerry?
Jerry?
So your standard bottom snapper rig, what I'm seeing on that bigger pole is roughly a 6-foot leader. How heavy a leader do you like to use?
I use an 8 to 10 foot leader, and I like a 60-pound leader.
You use a 60-pound leader?
Fluorocarbon?
Fluorocarbon.
What size hook would you use?
Sir?
Size
Size
number
hook.
3,
Number 5 with
Who's
live
bigger
bait
than
and bigger than that on squid. I don't fish a lot of squid, but I do like a bigger hook because I use a lot of squid.
Yeah, I got a lot of squid, I use a little bit of smaller type here, or right on the bottom, and I'm looking to expand on the little that I already know about, fishing the bottom out there. So, we use chicken rigs, we try a lot of different things, but we've only been out a few times, so we're still learning, some of the ropes of working the bottom like that, so you use a bigger hook, even if if you're going for a regular, lane snapper, mangrove
Yeah.
snapper, you're using a number 5 hook.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the size of the fish; it's the size of the bait.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know mutton you're using a 20 to 30 foot leader, correct?
Well, yeah, they get leader shy pretty quick,
Yeah.
and I use a 30-pound, and I use a long leader. I mean, some people use up to 60 feet. I can't. I'm not smart enough to manage all that. You know, I get like 3 or 4 people on the boat.
Fish all the way up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What happened? You wind you lay it up, and then hand line the leader in, and which I don't mind doing that, but it's just so much fluctuation, you know, in your bait out there. Yeah.
Well, let's, we're gonna wrap it up for our Facebook.
Okay.
We're just gonna say, you know, Sundance is, you know, come out and see us at Sundance Marine in Jensen Beach. I hope that, you know, if you are watching us, we've got inventory, we have boats, we're getting used boats in, we're getting new boats in, you know, not as heavily as we'd like, but we do get boats in. We've got some nice center consoles, we've got a couple of bay boats, we've got Everglades, Parker, we've got a few used boats, I've got a few coming in. So yeah, come check us out as far as that goes. We also are, you know, we have parts in and service, and we've got a marina here with fuel, so if you're on the water one day up in Jensen Beach, come by and see us. We're just south of this Jensen Beach Causeway, so just stop in and say hello. We'd love to have you guys come by and mention the show. Sam?
We're gonna get Haley out there next week. We're gonna get her on some fish, so y'all be sure and come to the next seminar. And we'll show you her expertise in fishing.
See y'all. Have a good evening. Thanks, Sam.
Hey, thank y'all.